The Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo says he will now only deliver his ruling tomorrow on that recusal application brought by the former President Jacob Zuma. Zondo postponed the judgment yesterday, saying he was still deliberating. This week, the Commission heard arguments by Zuma's advocate, Newzroom on why the Deputy Chief Justice should step down as Commission chair. Zuma claims Zondo has been insensitive to him and has already decided on the former President's guilt of enabling state capture. Well, Tumaole Mohlaoli been following the events this afternoon. As always, our person at the Commission, he joins me now. Dr. Sam Khoma is a political analyst. He's with us as well. All right, Tumaole Mohlaoli, let's just bring us up on the facts on this. At this stage, it seems that Zuma filed some sort of document with the Deputy Chief Justice. What did he say?
Absolutely. According to what the excerpt of the document says, it says that he contends that we continued, I quote, to relate as friends and continued to meet at social and government functions. I persist with this assertion. In fact, in our discussion at my residence in Forest Town, to which I refer and makes a reference in the paragraph, of my founding affidavit, we discussed, amongst other things, how our friendship, if not managed properly, could jeopardize his, referring to Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo, judicial ambitions or rise within the ranks of the judiciary. So this is effectively Jacob Zuma, the former president of the country, saying, it's not true that there was no personal relationship, as Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo so emphatically stated. So this is another twist in the plot, another twist in the tale, and with this, revelation, it just speaks to what the former president had been saying earlier, saying that when the time is right, he will reveal exactly the extent of the nature of this personal relationship, which he feels is clouding the judgment of Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo and making him the scapegoat or the target of the Commission of Inquiry.
Tumaole Mohlaoli, stay with us, please. Right, Dr. Sam Khoma, you're listening to all of this. As I understand it now, we have an argument, we have a big legal argument between a former president and the Deputy Chief Justice about whether they're friends or not.
Yes, remember, one of the issues that the legal team of Mr. Zuma raised was regarding potential bias, and also instances in which some of the witnesses that came before the commission and implicated Zuma might have prejudged or prejudiced Mr. Zuma. Now, you remember also the relationship between Mr. Zuma and Zondo dates back to about 3 decades. So there could be possibility of memory loss on the part of Mr. Zondo, because on Monday he was able to deliver a statement related to his own side of the story regarding the close relationship he had.
Dr. Sam Khoma, we seem to be losing you on that link. There are interesting questions here because Tumaole Mohlaoli, if we continue this, and you heard what Dr. Khoma was making the point, there could be memory loss. Unfortunately, there are already 1 or 2 sort of court rulings around defamation because of claims that President Zuma has made about people in the past. I'm thinking about Derek Hanekom, for example. So it might be memory loss on one side, someone else might be telling fibs on the other.
Absolutely, and now we have to wait and see exactly where the truth lies, because as you can imagine, when it came to light that indeed the former President Jacob Zuma had this particular recollection of a particular event whereby they were together, despite the if I can say, denials by Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo, to the contrary, saying that they had never met in any particular social context. He's never been to his home. He's never invited him to any family gatherings. And now with this new, revelation that, in fact, he did go to, according to the former president, to his residence in Forest Town, where they discussed, amongst other things, his judicial ambitions. I mean, that is quite a serious oversight when you think at how emphatically the Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo stated that, they have no particular relations. They don't even communicate at all. So this raises a lot of questions whether or not, the former President Jacob Zuma's assertions that he is unfairly being treated and feels that Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo should recuse himself because of this so-called obsession or this view to try and crucify him in front of the Commission of Inquiry into state capture. So this is what this development brings into question.
I mean, Dr. Sam Kwame, you're still with us. I mean, it really, we're going back a long way in the past in some cases. Two people can also have a disagreement. I mean, I think Tumaole and I are friends. I know that he thinks different. I mean, two people can have very different views on whether they're friends or not. Right, we seem to have a problem there with Dr. Kwame. Let me put the question to you, Tumaole. I mean, we're talking about things that happened quite a long time ago, so I can easily imagine a sort of argument about, well, maybe we were friendly once, people were friendly 20, 30 years ago. Both Zuma and Zondo have a long history in public life within our country. We can't forget that. It doesn't mean that people who were friends are friends. I mean, Thabo Mbeki and Jacob Zuma were friends.
Absolutely. Thabo Mbeki, Jacob Zuma were friends. In fact, even out in exile, they were together as revolutionaries at the time, you know, fighting for the liberation of South Africa from the apartheid regime and to bring forth democracy. I mean, there was a famous story that the former President Jacob Zuma recounted of how they shared a cell. I think it was in Swaziland before, you know, Thabo Mbeki left the continent. So, again, this comes to the question of what is true and what is perception, because again the Commission's you know, evidence leader yesterday, Advocate Pretorius, was saying that you know, casting aspersions on what the Commission's perception is not true, because you have a lot of people who have come and testified you know, under oath in front of the Commission and placing the former president at various meetings and saying that he had given various instructions. So clearly they feel they have a case, and that state capture narrative does fit with him being behind the scenes and controlling things. But now with this development, it raises a couple of questions to say, how could you forget that there is indeed a relationship? And when that raises that doubt, all that the former President Jacob Zuma is trying to do is to raise that doubt, to say that when I made this complaint, I was just saying that people should see that it comes from a place of fact. So this is where we stand.
Dr. Kwame, you're back with us. I mean, the Zondo Commission has always been inherently political. I mean, it is a legal process, of course it is, but it's inherently political, and that means this is about who believes who. Does this change the game? Does this weaken Judge Zondo?
Not at all. He has gone very far in terms of the work of the Commission. You remember at some point they had to ask the High Court to extend the duration of the Commission because it was given 18 months to complete its work. So we now know that the Commission is expected to wrap up its work and also conclude its proceedings and possibly have the final report by end of March or April 2021. So at this stage, I don't see Judge Zondo deciding to recuse himself from presiding over the testimony and the evidence that relates to Mr. Zuma. As he rightly pointed out on Monday in his statement, providing a detailed and concrete explanation that there is no close relationship between the two of them at a personal level, and therefore we cannot regard them as friends. And we know that our courts have already settled the issue of conflict of interest to say bias should be actual. It should be proven. It cannot be based on assumptions, or it cannot be based on any theoretical explanation, which is what the Zuma legal team sought to do on Monday, because they were just giving us a conceptual understanding of the meaning of bias. But there was no concrete link in terms of what they were saying and also relating that to the evidence that has already been presented before the Commission, plus the testimonies of some of the witnesses. So it's a game plan for them. They're trying to drag this particular process and also hoping that eventually Judge Zondo will decide to recuse himself. But just to cast our minds back to 2006, during the Zuma rape trial, which of course he was acquitted by the court. You remember in that trial already we had two judges who recused themselves. One, it was Judge Nwebe, who Zuma's legal team alleged that he cannot preside over this case because he was party to the issuing of the search and seizure warrant over Mr. Zuma. Then the appointed Judge Shongwe, who at the outset of that trial said, I cannot preside over this case because of my personal relationship with Mr. Zuma. Zuma has a son with my sister. As a result of that, I cannot. So that was actually a conflict of interest in the two instances. But I don't see in this instance any conflict of interest between Mr. Zondo and also Mr. Zuma. But I think it's their legal strategy that let's try our best to drag cast aspersions and also to derail the proceedings of this commission, bearing in mind that Judge Zondo built the whole of this week to hear the side of Mr. Zuma regarding the evidence and testimonies that implicates him as a result of the proceedings of the commission. So it's a week lost already. If now we're hearing that the decision has been delayed or postponed to tomorrow by Mr. Zondo. So we are remaining with Friday. And it is not clear whether by Friday or even tomorrow the testimony or the side of Zuma will be heard by the proceeding. So it's a clear-cut Stalingrad strategy on the part of the Zuma's legal team.
I was waiting for the name of a Russian city. Dr. Sam Korma, I do appreciate the time. Thanks very much indeed. The political analyst Tumaole Mohlaoli with me as well, of course, watching the Zondo Commission for us. So then.